Hello, good morning. This is David Hulse, and we are now going to have our metaphysical class, which has been for about a year and a half at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. But I have felt in my heart that it was a good thing to move it more midweek so that we don't have all those days between a Sunday to a Sunday to kind of connect and come back together and just help to remind each other who we are. And I think in this time we can lose that connection that we have when we are together on a physical level, and we can see with our five senses we're together. Now we have to use something that's beyond the five senses, and that's called faith. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. Now, when you look on the other side of this, you realize that what we're dealing with is something we can't see. The only way it could be seen would be through an electron microscope because it's so small, it's invisible to us. So this is really telling us that life begins at a subtle level that is beyond our five senses. Even on a more spiritual side of things, we've talked about that in the sense of imprints, emotional imprints, and ancestral imprints and things of the past that have not been balanced or brought to an equal level. That's what that means, or homeostasis actually is the technical word for it. If it's not been balanced, then it has been put in a reserve place within our deep consciousness. And we call that the shadow place now because that's where we store deeply those things that are yet to be balanced and to be dealt with that we chose through free will not to deal with. Well, because we chose not to deal with it, it now has chosen to deal with us. So here we are in this time of a tremendous opportunity, an opportunity to clear out a lot of old imprints, karmic imprints. And we know that karmic imprints means that things that we have chosen that has not been in alignment with our spiritual plan, purpose, intelligence, divine self. It's called many things, but this is a tremendous time for us to go into our shadow areas and do the work of clearing and cleaning. And you know, you've got that opportunity now that you're kind of home and you can't get out and run around all over the place. You've been stopped, and you're stopped to do the work. So I hope that you're doing the work rather than sitting around and just listening to the news all day long and feeling bad and frightened and scared. That's not going to serve that anything, you or anyone else at all, if that's the way we choose to go. So let's choose again. Let's go in a different direction, different perception of this thing. And most of you, and if not all of you that are joining us, are considered spiritual. You call yourself spiritual people. Well, it's time for spiritual people to step and be spiritual. And to be spiritual means to find that transcendent part of consciousness, whether we call it the God mind or the Christ consciousness, divine mind. It doesn't matter what you call it, but there's a higher aspect of ourself that is a pure consciousness. It is not that consciousness that's built upon the perception of what's outside of us, but it is a consciousness that carries the seed of that which is a blueprint for perfection and wholeness. And if we keep coming from that place and feeding that place in us, guess what? We'll become that. We'll become whole. So just a reminder, what I want to do because of the situation is I'd like to take the first part of the class and continue talking to you in a way that I can help to empower you and remind you and bring you to a spiritual point of view of this situation that we're in. And in the second part, we will go back into our heart-centered metaphysic book and continue our lesson. And I want to be able to do both of that with you. So I'm going to remind you of some things that I want you to contemplate. And this says, and this is out of 1 John 4:18 in the Christian text, there is no fear. Breathe that in. There is no fear. Now, when you breathe that in and hear that, what goes off in your head and says, oh yeah? There's so much fear right now. Even I'm feeling the fear. But this says there is no fear in love. So we know this. We've been taught this. We've been through it, whether it's Course of Miracles or any spiritual, New Thought, metaphysical teaching. We've been taught that these two things cannot both be realities in the same space of consciousness. That one has to be real and one is not real. Now, a lot of things I'm saying, I'm repeating and have repeated it many times since I've been with you in the last year and a half. And let me tell you how you know when what I'm teaching has been made into your consciousness is when you're saying, oh, not that again. Is he going to say that again? I've heard that many times. If you come to that place, then you got it. It's in your consciousness now, and it's not just me telling you something outside of your consciousness. So that's a good thing if you feel that way. But there is no fear, merely means, and the best analogy I've always given is the fact there is not night. Although night looks very real to me, it is absolutely, I can't trace a cause for night. In other words, the moon doesn't cause night. The moon is a reflection of the light of the sun, and it shows up in the night because of the night. But really, there's no source of night. But when I look at light or the daytime, as I'm looking at right now, it's a very bright day here in Charlotte, I realize that the source is the sun. So therefore, the light is real because it has a source that is real. So what is night? Night is the absence of a source. Therefore, this whole idea of the sun rising and setting, which looks so real to my five senses, I put everything I had that this is a reality. But you know it's not. The sun is not what's moving across the sky. The earth is revolving around, which gives the illusion the sun is rising in the east and going to set in the west. So that's just a good example to show you can't always believe everything you see. You can't judge a book by the cover. All those sayings that we've all said before are absolutely true. So this is a time to work on the opening of the eye of enlightenment, third eye. The eye that is right between the eyebrows and is connected to your pituitary and your pineal gland and all those specialized little organs in the brain that need to be activated right now because they send off signals and vibrations. They're like little antennas that is able to bring in the data from a higher dimension. I call it fifth dimension, but from a higher dimension. And it's that data that's going to get you through. And if you follow that data and let that data come together and bring a blueprint, then you can start rebuilding. And you know, that's what we're going to have to do when this is over, whether it's a month, 2 months, 3 months, I don't know. But whenever this has changed and it's over, we're going to have to rebuild. And you know what? I would suggest that we don't look at rebuilding from the old blueprint that we built on in the past. But there's a new blueprint that is showing up and we must build. The scripture says every man must build. And you're either going to build on the shifting sand of man's perceptions or you're going to build on the solid rock of a consciousness that will align you with divine purpose and for your purpose for being here and incarnating at this time. So there is no fear in love. So today we're going to declare love exists over fear. Then it says perfect love casts out fear. So I invite you to center yourself in love in this moment. So wherever you are, sitting, standing, maybe you're lying down, to just focus upon the breath. And don't let this be something you mentally have heard over and over, but truly go to your breath. Feel your body rise in the inhale and feel it relax in the exhale. Consciously, as you breathe in, feel what it's like to take in. And the exhale, feel what it's like to let go. And now we're going to take in love, the vibration, the frequency of love. Take it in. Hold it for just a second and let go. Once again, breathe. This time the heart area is what rises. Hold it at a still point and then just let go. Oh, it feels so good to let go. Let go of the anxiety. Let go of the depression. Let go of the uncertainty. Let go. This time breathe in the white light of the presence. Hold it. And now let's give it to the world. Exhale. Extend it. Again, breathe in the white light of the divine presence within. And this time exhale and extend it out into the room in which you are in. Filling the room with the presence. So much presence that nothing could even live or exist in this presence that is surrounding the room that you are in. Inhale. Extend it and let it go into all of the rooms of your home, apartment, or wherever you are at this moment. Feeling your entire space in which you live. Your kitchen, your bathroom, your bedrooms, your living room, wherever. Till your house is filled with divine presence of white light. You're immersed in it. But it can't be held there within the confinements of your home. Let it move out. Like a beam going out to the east, to the west, north, and the south. If you close your eyes and focus your consciousness just at the very level of your heart, imagine the human globe just floating around at the center of your heart. You see on this globe all the continents. And as you allow that white light of love and healing to come out of your heart and to fill all of the continent, say, of Africa, immersing all life, nature, human, animal, in the white light of divine love, healing, and protection. And now look at the Middle East. Let the white light of your heart go and fill the entire North Africa into the Middle East, every country, every inhabitant. And as the globe turns a little, you see all of Asia. And from your heart goes the white light of love, healing, and protection. Filling all the countries of Asia. All the inhabitants, all nature, all life, immersed. As you look upon Europe, East Europe, from your heart and exhale the white light of healing, health, and wholeness to all of Europe. And now moving into Russia and all those countries. White light filling all of Russia. Finally over to North America, South America, Canada, United States, South America, including all the Caribbean islands. From your heart goes the white light of love, wholeness, protection. Immerse all the inhabitants of people, nature, and of life. Also Australia. Filled with light until the whole globe before your heart is now radiating with the gold light of wholeness and healing and protection. All 7 billion or more people we see the intention of the seed of hope and vision. With our higher mind and through faith, we see this done and call it done, and so it is. Now breathe in slowly. Exhale, relax your body into this time together. Join with all that is in this community and all that are joined with us. Join together in love and intention. Right now, feel each other's presence. Realize you're not alone beyond your physical body, but you're a part of a great community of souls, of minds, of thoughts, of experiences that has drawn you together. And I say, for what can separate us from the love of God? Not powers nor principalities, not viruses. Feel that connection of something bigger than where you are physically. Feel the love of each one as you send love through the ether. Feel the comfort of the Holy Spirit, for I will comfort you. Breathe in. Exhale. Breathe in one more time and exhale. Allowing yourself to come back into the awareness of the room that you're in and your focus on the class. So it is. Thank you so much. Anxiety is a crisis of faith. What does that mean? It means that when we put spirit into the idea of anxiety, it is a time of testing our faith. And the crisis is the fact that we really don't believe what we say we believe. That's a crisis. Because before this, it was easy to say, this is what we believe at Heartlight. This is what we believe as people who are spiritual and metaphysical. It was easy because there was no crises. But now the crisis says, do you know what you believe? Is what you believe stepping up for you? Are you allowing it into your consciousness? This is a time of deep inner reflection about who we are, where we've come from, all the teachings, all the workshops, all the books, all the conversations that we have been a part of for so long has now come back to say, do you believe what you say you believe? To do that, we must make sure that we do not fall into the ego's trap of appearance and perception. But your heart has a different way, a different intelligence than what the brain has. The brain is mostly based upon outside interpretations of your life and yourself and others in the world, which is what is crumbling before us, an old perception that's been based on fear and separation. That's what's being torn down. And what is emerging and birthing is a new way of seeing ourselves, each other, and the world from a spiritual point of view. So if you're in crises, and the crises would be like, where's God? How could God allow this to happen? Where's all this times that I've meditated and I've prayed and I have felt peace? Where's it now? It hasn't gone anywhere. Just because part of your mind has traveled into a far country. And that far country is right in your own head. Reminds me of the little story of the prodigal son, and how the prodigal son decided to go into a far country and separate himself from his source, from his father. So he goes into a far country where he spends all of his energy in riotous living. That means doing what he was not meant to do or be. Until he came to the end of that and came to himself, and he says, I got to get back to my source, because I'm sure my source, my father, is missing me because I left. But the real truth was he didn't leave, because the story says there was two sons, a son that left and a son that didn't. The son that left was what was in the mind of the son that didn't leave. You can travel anywhere in your mind. Through imagination, through any thoughts that you want to think, you can go anywhere. You can see anything you want. You can perceive however you want. But just because you might perceive something that isn't true doesn't mean the truth is in any way changed at its deepest level. And that's what we call God. God is the isness of spirit. It is that which changes not, based upon how we misuse or use our free will. We may go to a far country of doubt and anxiety and fear right now, but that doesn't mean we become anything less than God has created us to be. So this prodigal son says, I'm going back. My father's going to be so glad to see me because I'm gone. But he gets back just close enough into awareness, and he says, wait a minute, my father's not alone. Because you see, the Father only has one begotten offspring expression of itself. In biblical terms, called the Son of God, the only begotten Son of God. That Son is male and female, created he, them. So we're not excluding the women, the feminine. It's a part of the sonship, the offspring of God. He gets back close enough to say, well, look, there's somebody with my father, because I never left. And at that moment, he didn't need the path anymore. So the real path is the path to no path. Path is not going to get you there. The path of study and classes like this is to help you along the path. So you get into that awareness to realize that what you think has separated never did. In the mind of God, all is well. We're in perfect alignment. But we made a world that it appears we're not in alignment. And therefore we became vulnerable to many outside religions and teachings outside of ourselves that says, I can get you to where you're going because you left there. No. Spirituality, new thought, light, heart light. We're here to remind you you never left. But you remain whole and perfect in the mind that created you. Because ideas cannot leave their course, it says in A Course in Miracles. So anxiety, yes, can be a crisis of faith. And it shows up where we do not trust the divine. Do you trust the divine to bring you through this? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they do comfort me. Simple, but profound. Do you trust? I also read recently from Philippians 4:6 from the Mirror Bible that says, let no anxiety about anything distract you. Watch the distractions. Every time I turn on the regular media, all I see is those numbers changing. And that's when I disconnect. How many has died today? How many's got it today? Now I am so sorry and so passionate and compassionate about those that are going. But right now it's somewhat out of my control how this is working itself out. But I don't need to see that. Remind me, 9/11, we started seeing all these color codes in the airport, and orange was danger, this was danger. It's just constantly feeding and reminding our minds that we're not in contact, that we've disconnected from our divine. And when we disconnect, we misplace our power over here and give power to those things that wants power over us, the power to conquer and divide. And I've said so many times, you must learn to be as wise as the serpent, but as harmless as the dove. Learn what the secret societies of this world have learned how to divide and separate us. Learn how they did it and change it over from divide and conquer to unite and heal us. They've known about how to use the subtleness of life. They've known how to manipulate us and control us through our etheric bodies and through those things that are not seen. It's not been long at all that really energy work has shown up. Vibrational sound therapy. It's relatively new from the 80s that we begin to move more into this kind of thinking. They've known it for maybe thousands of years, hundreds of years. I don't know how long, but a long time they've known about this and used it because we didn't know about it. But now we do. Now we know the world of cause is beyond what we see. Don't be immersed into what the five senses is telling you now, but hear what the Spirit is saying. In the last book of the Scripture, Christian Scriptures, the text, 17 times it says, hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. I didn't say to religion, I said to the church, to the people, to the ecclesia, to the community, the light workers, the first fruits. I call them many things, but it is time we hear what Spirit is saying, not just what CNN is saying. Now, I check in once in a while, but don't let that be your source. If there's something that is said out there, take it inside, contemplate it, and see, does it resonate my own innate intelligence? You'll know it. The baby will leap in the womb of your consciousness and witness it. If it doesn't, put it on the shelf. Don't judge it right or wrong. Just let it be. Because your power lies in what you validate as your belief with your power that brings you into your self-knowledge, not the knowledge of others, not even mine. Whether it's me or anybody else, it is your responsibility what you validate as what you want to believe. So it says, let no anxiety distract you. Rather, translate moments into prayerful worship. Wow, now that takes faith. I mean, you're feeling like you're imprisoned in your house and you don't know who's going to get this virus and all of those kind of things that comes up like that. What if the higher part of you, the divine mind of you, interrupted that with a different prayer? Such as, God, in you, I know that I'm whole all the time, that nothing can change what you have created. I am a part of you as your offspring. Therefore, you cannot deny yourself. Therefore, I cannot deny who I am in this moment. Come up with your own affirmations. Come up with the things that feeds, not just positive, but spiritual ideas. Just as the snake has put its venom into our minds, raise that serpent on the pole like Moses did, and let that become the cure. What do you think is going to be the cure of this virus? The antibodies of those that had it and survived it. It's always been that way. Ebola, anything else, has come through the thing that struck and built up an antibodies in us. And spiritually, antibodies are being built up in us so we be a people of great faith. So take moments that you could be drawn into hopelessness and fear and doubt, and interrupt that with a higher prayer, affirmation, some spiritual way of putting that into what the mind, where the mind is trying to take you into hopelessness. This has soaked your request in gratitude. Now, come on, everybody can look around wherever you are right now and find something to be. If you're in a house and you've got some food in there and you've got electricity and you've got certain things, that's a place of gratitude. If you woke up this morning, a lot of people would not afford the ability to wake up in this world. But you did. Why? Because God's not through with you. God has woken you up because there's a purpose today. Not a purpose of sitting around in your house coat and listening to the media and feeling sorry for yourself. Yeah, you can do that. I don't know what that's going to help. Or you can do something constructively, creatively. Get up, do some yoga, do some stretching. Do something that makes you feel good about you. And when you do that, you are disrupting the thing that is trying to distract you. So, just wanted to say that today. There are things going on that we need to be very much aware of, in the sense of how things are changing the world that we are living in today. I want to read something that is from the ancient texts that is talking about this time that you and I are living. It's called a time of point zero energy. It is a time in which everything is winding itself down. Everything. Everything that has had a hold and power over us is winding down. And you're living that winding down of things that have been so powerful and so controlling. And we need to work with that idea of breakdown and continue to work also with breakthrough. This says that in the time of apparent non-activity, which is usually a time of tremendous realignment within the subtle energy fields, the blueprints of the earth realign themselves to accommodate the new pattern of energies and information which is being asked to show up at this time. Read it again. In the time in which things are diminishing and slowing itself down, while systems out here that no longer serve us are diminishing themselves. And you got to understand, this is what's happening, is a shift, a redistribution of power. Too much power has been way at the top. And that power is diminishing, and don't think they don't know it. You talk about fear, that's where the fear should be. The fear of those who have controlled and misled us is diminishing. And in that, we are living the shift, the realignment, the redistribution of power. Now, as we come to this point of non-action, it's called many things. It's called a still point. In some energetics, we called it a sacred pause. If you could imagine a pendulum, if I had one right here, and I swung it, you'd never see, but it had to stop somewhere to go this way. If it hadn't, it'd just keep going around and around. So sometimes a subtleness is so subtle that you can't see that there was that still point, so it could go a different direction. So this still point is an opportunity for us to go a different direction. Say, for instance, moving from degeneration to regeneration. There's many examples of what this is going to be like. Greg Braden has been telling us since 1994 that most likely there's going to be a polar shift. And I just have to say, are we living a polar shift? If we're doing that, then we're actually seeing the direction in which the earth has gone slowing down toward still point, and that still point could be approximately 72 hours. So I want to say this to you. I don't know if this will happen or not, but it's worth you knowing. It will empower you that if things shut down for 3 days and 3 nights and there's no internet and there's no power whatsoever, this could maybe be a good thing, a spiritual thing that's happening in the sense that everything's getting ready to reverse itself. Be prepared for that if that would happen, to see it for what it may be on this spiritual direction. So at this time, there will be a realignment with all of the subtle energy fields. New blueprints will be made that will cause the earth to realign itself, and new energy information called photon information. Photons are units of light. This is fifth dimension. Light data information will come in, producing new blueprints in which we'll do everything from reconstruct our cellular structure. We will become a new vessel, a new container that is able to hold the light of a fifth dimension experience and life and stabilize and normalize it. In Bible terms, this is a time in history which is equivalent to the process modeled to us through the pattern of Yeshua Jesus, which is called the death, burial, and resurrection of the universal Christ. Death to the old patterns and the undoing, buried into the cocoon of the deep shadow, which we are now being buried. And what comes? Resurrection. Keep your eye upon the resurrection. After the dying out of the old, going into the deep shadow to clear all karmic imprints, then you become reborn at that moment, and therefore changing your vibratory frequency, you are resurrected into the world as a universal Christ. Keep your eye on these goals that are set for us, called kingdom principles. Kingdom principles. All right, you that have your book, chapter 2, I'm not going to stay in it, but it was a lot about consciousness. Consciousness is definitely something that is a difficult thing for us to understand, and that's why this has been hard to get out of, because it's like trying to explain God. I mean, where do you go? Where do you find an end? Where do you find a beginning? Because there's no end, and there's no beginning, and there's no birth, and there's no death. All we know that whatever this is that's undefinable, non-local, cannot define it in any way, has no name really, became aware of itself, and that was the beginning of consciousness. Creation is consciousness. And that we're talking about, that is infinite, was found in the awareness of itself called consciousness. And that is what we call God consciousness. Now, humanity came along and was given free will to develop its own consciousness about consciousness. And that's where the road split. Is we did not carry forth the consciousness that we were, the creation of God, the awareness of God itself, Creator. We went off and said, but this is how we see ourselves. And at that moment, real consciousness was light first, and then the physical body. But when we changed our consciousness, we saw ourselves a body and brought in and imprisoned the light body that we truly are. And the light body, for a long time, has been imprisoned in this human, third-dimensional vessel. But you know, the Bible says Jesus went and preached to the prisoner. He preached to the spirit in prison. That's what it says. Preached to the spirit in prison. And I don't know what he said, but I could ad-lib right here and say, I could hear him saying, okay, spirit, hold on, your day will come. You may be for 2 days a prisoner, and 2 days is 2,000 years, because a day is 1,000 years with God. So for 2,000 years from the time Yeshua shows up, the first enlightened one to know he was the universal Christ shows up and gives us a whole new pattern, a new way of looking at it. We didn't follow that. We didn't go that direction. But instead, we decided to see ourselves as a body. Spirit became imprisoned and has been in prison for 2,000 years. And one of the great things that did come along 150, 200 years ago was this idea of going within. Within. That was powerful. That was a great shift from out there, always seeing the divine as God out there, an old man on a throne out there, Jesus out there in the sky somewhere going to come back. All of that made spirit embodied in a physical symbol was changed when the four fathers and mothers of spiritual metaphysical thought came along and said, no, let's go within. That wasn't new, even for Christians. Your Bible says the kingdom of God is in you. Christ is in you. What about that we didn't get? I don't know. Because we looked at it through the lens of a dogma and doctrine that had totally, excuse me, I got to fix my thing here. That totally brought us outside of ourselves and we imprisoned our spirit. Jesus went to the spirit and said, I know you're in prison now, but the day will come that the prisoner shall be set free. I'm declaring this is the day the spirit shall be set free out of the third dimensional human perimeters. Let it come forth. How do we do that? We create spaces. We create portals. We create wormholes. I don't care what you call it. It's whatever school that you come from, but there are ways. You can create a door. Jesus, I'm the door. Create a door in your meditations. See a door and see all kinds of bright white light coming through the cracks of the door, saying if you'll just open the door, you can move into the very light of life. However you choose to see it. Find the way into what we have only forgotten and need to remember. So consciousness has been an interesting thing. In this, it talked about moving from victim to victor consciousness on page 9, for you to have your book. And that's important, especially now. We must not buy in to the victim, but the victor consciousness. And this happens when you realize that you have the power to change your mind and therefore your experience, no matter what. Oh, but I didn't know about this virus thing. I didn't know it was going to get this bad. I kind of got into being able to switch off from being negative to positive. But man, this has gone beyond that. This is too much. No, it's not. It says that I can do all things through Christ. All, not some. There's no exceptions. All things through Christ who strengthens me. You've got to find that strength that has been given to you. It's your inheritance. It's your birthright as a child of this universe of God, however you choose to call it. It comes from the realization that your intellect has power over your brain, mind, consciousness. Again, everything that I read in all literature always is coupling the brain and the mind together synonymously. That is not true. The mind is much bigger than your brain. If the brain was receiving from the mind, it'd be a different kind of brain. But the brain says, no, I don't want to hear from the mind. I'll be the mind. So the brain usurped the mind and became the mind. And where does the brain source? It's outside of itself. It's the conditioning of culture, society, religions, and so on and so forth. And it's suppressed the mind. But the mind has stayed in touch with that part of itself that's in the heart, called the heart intelligence or the heart consciousness. So, your intellect has power over your brain mind, over your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings and actions if you go this direction. This is the movement from victim consciousness, thinking everything happens to you, including thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, to realizing actually you choose this experience via the power of your true mind consciousness, which says things are not happening to you, but it's happening by you, for you. Please change that. Why is this happening? What did I have to do with it? Don't separate yourself. I had nothing to do with this virus coming here. You didn't individually maybe, but collectively you did, because nothing shows up on this planet that has not reached a certain level of power to reveal itself unless it's been given that power by the collective mass consciousness. So everything you want to complain about, everything you don't like, at a deep level, you've got to take the responsibility as an individual who's a part of a great consciousness, a great sphere, the new sphere it's called. And what we put up will rain back upon us. What do you think rain is? Rain is drawing the water of lakes and streams and oceans up into the air, and you don't see it for a long, long time, and then all of a sudden there's this little haze, and you go, ooh, something is there. And if you keep letting that moisture go up and go up, the haze becomes thicker and thicker until you got clouds, and then the clouds get heavy, and they get dark, and they can't hold it any longer, and they let it go, and what went up came down. That's karma. Yes, this is karma for the world, for America, for the world, for the planet itself. And karma also has grace. Grace means I can change any karma, that I don't have to be a victim to karma, but I can transcend the karma. So I'm inviting you today to move from victim to victor, to realize you actually chose this experience via the power of your brain-mind consciousness. This is the realization that your experience of the world around you is happening by you, for you, not just to you. Moving from victim to victor consciousness, page 9, number 2. To vessel consciousness happens when you realize there is a higher power over your intellect. This higher power helps you in some way. It has power over you that you have given it. This power involves the belief that everything is happening now through you. So what happens for you, by you, for you, becomes something that can happen through you. And this is where we have what many call healers. I'm reluctant with that term, but you know what I mean. Those who are working in the healing modalities, most of true healers are working with self-healing and awakening the intelligence that's within the body. But this is what this is basically talking about, that now through us we can all learn a modality, or we can learn something that helps us to take again what we thought was done to us was done by us and for us, and take it out to the world. So this is why we encourage people. Learn something. Learn healing touch. Learn Reiki. Learn to use vibration and sound through tuning forks. Whatever. There's so many ways and tools that you can use so that you can help this experience that you're having be shared out into the collective consciousness for all. We need to learn more long-distance healing. We need to realize you don't have to have a client physically right there to work with. It's time that we expand upon the boundaries of a third-dimensional system and world that we live in. We are not victims. We are victors of consciousness. Moving from victim to victor, page 10. A victor or vessel consciousness to verity consciousness happens. Let's read this. It's number 3 on page 10. Happens when you realize there's a higher power and it is your true reality. It's not just a higher power that's separate and over you, but it's a higher power that's a part of you. You're a part of the higher power. You also realize that you can use your true reality to overcome and or change your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings through the truth of you that is the vast, uninformed potential. What a time to wade out into the potential of all that you have never made conscious. It's awaiting you. 5%, 5% of consciousness, 5% of genetic material, 10% of the universe, the rest is dark matter. I mean, anything you go to, you'll see what little we're actually using as a norm in the past age of third-dimensional human experience. Something is trying to push us out into the uncharted territory of ourselves. So don't feel limited. I appreciate some of you that I'm reading on Facebook and others that are coming up with new ways to make money. I mean, you're open to re-look at how you can do things from this situation that we have been placed in, that there's other ways that you can make money. There's other ways that you can do everything. Don't let yourself be caught into my way was the only way, it was the best way, it's the familiar way, and everything else is scary. No, it's exciting. I am waiting with anticipation with the new ideas that you have. We're doing it here at Heartlight. By coming here on Sunday, by coming here on Wednesday, we're continually looking at it. What can we do within the confinements that has been given to us that will help us to stay more in touch and connected, and not just in touch and connected in the old way, but touch and connected in a new, higher, deeper way that has never been before. Please remain encouraged in all this that is happening today. Next time we're going to go to chapter 3 and talk on self-knowledge. We're going to talk about why this is important, and most of all, what's in it for me, for you. And I think this is one of the most important things that we can connect to is our own innate intelligence, our own knowing. That way we become more and more empowered as divine human beings. So remember, as this said, that in this time of a point that we are brought to be inactive is an opportunity for realignment to take place. So today, be realigned in your thinking. If you've tipped over to the fear and the anger and the frustration, come back to center. Center is right down the center of your body, right through the heart, the neutral prana tube, the sushumna. It's called many things, but you've got this wonderful place in which breath moves through, where cerebral spinal fluid moves through, the excelsior of life, the physical life. Go there, stay centered. And from there, make new choices. Execute your own power to realize I can change any moment of fear and anxiety into a moment of honor and grace and praise. Mother, Father, God, we thank you again for this opportunity that we can come together. We're thankful that we have this tool, the internet, the camera, Tim's ability to do it, to make it possible for us to stay in touch with one another. I ask again the blessings of Elion, the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, upon all of those that are with us live right now and those who will watch us later. May your home, your life, your mind, your soul be filled with the light of hope and vision. And we all say amen. Thank you. So at the end now, we're going to have a little bit of something different, and we're going to be able to chat if you'd like. You were given instructions on how to get on Zoom right after the class. If you want to get in touch where I can hear you and you can hear me, you can ask questions or you can share something. You'll be able to do that in just a little bit. But I always want to remind you, please continue to support us. I know this is going to be an easy thing to kind of just sit back and get a little unconcerning about the finances here, but realize you're going to want to have this when you come out, and you're going to come out to a new beautiful place. The work has begun here. New roof is being put on right now as I speak. We're refusing to shut down and be paralyzed by this thing, but we are working to continue creating and remodeling and making this a beautiful space for all of you when you return back on the physical level. So please get on, and through PayPal, you can through your credit card, or if you want to send it to 7300 Mallard Creek Road, and please, you can do that if you want to send a check. We so appreciate it. You came through last week, and now we're in a new week and a new month that is starting now. So we just see, we don't see April as a time of victims. We see a time of being victorious, even all the way to the support of this community. Thank you so much. And for you that want to, I will see you in just a few minutes on the Zoom, and we'll give you an opportunity to connect with me and with others. So bless you until our next time. Remember, Sunday morning, 11:15, we will be right here with you at and from Heartlight into your home and into your hearts. Thank you so much.